If you guys have any questions, there's the chat button. So just put your questions in there and we'll get them answered towards the end. Give ourselves a couple more minutes. Hi, Steve. You're going to stay on mute. I read your lips. Hi, Keith. You're going to stay on mute. Thanks for coming. If you have any questions, put it in the chat. I'll start exactly at 1, Alana. Okay, so I just want to recognize our sponsors. We have Nelson, Total Project Solutions, Hayworth, Tremco, Tozer Energy, Shaw, URI, Bala, Interface, Millicare, Franklin Flooring, Spectrum, Sunline, and SSH. So thank you guys for continuing to be partners of IFMA, and I want to let you guys know that we have some upcoming events. On 10/1, we have a webinar from Interface. It's called Doing Well by Doing Good, Demystifying the Options. On 10/8, we have our IFMA Golf outing at Springfield Country Club. So make sure to sign up for that if you haven't already. And on 10/15, we have how to retrofit your workstations and environment to protect your team members from a future furniture perspective, and that is from Sunline Furniture. I'm just going to disable the waiting room so everyone can come on in. And today we have on our panelists, or our panel roundtable, we have Jeff Kiniery, who is Director of Facilities from Komodo Holdings, otherwise known as Revzilla in the Navy Yard. Thanks for being here, Jeff. We have Colleen Teears, CFM, Senior Vice President of Radian Group, also my Vice President for IFMA Philadelphia. Thank you, Colleen. We have Michael Konchesky. Did I say that right, Mike?
Yes, you did.
Oh, good. Okay. CFM LED Green Associate. Thank you for being here, Mike. And then we have the wonderful Maria O'Callahan Cassidy, MSCFM SFP, Senior Director of Wharton Operations. As always, Maria, thank you as well. And then we have our lovely moderator, Alana Dunoff, ProFM, FMP, IFMA Fellow, so many other things. Consultant at AFD Facility Planning, Associate Adjunct at Temple University's FM program, and most importantly, the IFMA Qualified Instructor for the FMP. So, Alana, take it over.
Thank you. I get exhausted every time I hear someone talk about my credentials.
It's a long list.
So thank you, Kayla. It's awesome to be here. We have these panelists are amazing, and I'm really excited to be moderating for today. So this is the COVID-19 Philly style, right? So kind of really hearing from what's happening from FM colleagues in our region about what they're doing, the good things and the bad things. We had a pre-conversation, and there's really some great things that are happening out there, and I'm really excited for them to get to share their stories. Sort of just a couple quick housekeeping. Again, Kayla's gonna make sure everybody's on mute. Please put in more questions in the chat box, and I'll try to get those as well. You can also feel free to sort of pin the speaker to your screen if you kind of want to see the person talking, since there's quite a number of us on screen. So if you're kind of looking to see who's talking, you can sort of pin that in the upper right corner of your screen there, if you want to do that as well. So just to get started, I'm going to ask each one of our panelists to just do a really brief introduction of themselves again, so you kind of know who is who, just their name, their company, maybe how many number of years you've been in FM, and what's been your silver lining in the pandemic. So, Mike, I see you thinking, but let's start with you.
Always thinking. I'm Mike Kincheski. I have 30 years of experience in facilities management. I'm a past president of the Philadelphia chapter, and I'm currently vice president and corporate corporate facility manager at WSFS Bank. You can see I'm having a hard time saying that because I started in June in the middle of the lockdown. So I probably have a unique experience that no one else can share. The silver lining, it's not really professional so much. I have to say that working from home, it's been nice being around my wife and my daughter. Even when I am working, I'll come downstairs and see what they're up to, and it's an interesting blend of work and family life. The positive side of the absence of the barrier between work life and home life these days, but it's probably the nicest thing that came out of it.
Awesome, thanks, Mike. Colleen?
So I'm Colleen Teears. I've been with Radian for 25 years in January. I'm only 23 years old. I have been a facilities manager for, sorry, Mike, I got you beat, 40 years plus. But in my role includes corporate real estate, facilities management, and business continuity. So my world is very busy these days. The silver lining for me is I've learned how resilient we all are in this new world we're living in. And I had never watched Netflix before COVID-19, and there are some really awesome shows on there. So
That's awesome. Jeff?
Hi, I'm Jeff Kiniery with Komodo Holdings, locally Revzilla, J&P Cycles and Cycle Gear. I have been in FM for all of 5 years, but in my time there, I am responsible for 4 distribution centers across the country, totaling about 650,000 square feet. 4 office spaces also spread out throughout the country, including some customer service call centers, and work hand in hand with a stores team responsible for 150 retail stores across the country. So definitely coming in from a unique and diverse perspective. My silver lining, I'm going to go with Mike. The work from home, work-life balance is absolutely fantastic. Got a puppy, big mistake, and that's how I feel about it.
Maria.
I don't know if I can beat the puppy. My name is Maria Cassidy. I'm the Senior Director of Operations for the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. I'm in charge of academic scheduling, projects, leases, space management, day-to-day operations. So it encompasses anything that's pretty much not academic and computer related at the Wharton School campus. We also have lease spaces in Washington, D.C., San Francisco, and Beijing. I've been an IFMA member for over 20 years, and that coincides with my experience in facilities management. I'm on the executive board of BOMA Philadelphia, and I'm also the vice president of Women in Facilities Management. I guess my silver lining in this, I find it interesting that oftentimes silver linings are also our greatest weakness. So I've seen it go both ways, but I have been incredibly motivated by seeing so many team members really step up, think outside the box, be creative, and just working so hard during this remotely. So I think that team building is been our silver lining.
That's awesome. Well, you can see that these panelists are all from very different places and different skills and so on. I think that's what's going to make this conversation, I think, really interesting. So I have a combination of sort of longer questions and I have some sort of rapid fire questions just to try to fit in as much as we can in our hour together. So I'm going to start off with a rapid fire question, and Colleen, you're going to be on deck for this one. So, but then everybody should fill in, sort of jump right in afterwards. So everybody, this is for everyone to answer. But just to give us a sort of a stage, where are you with sort of return to work? What is it looking like? Is there a date that you're working towards? Are you going for 100% occupancy, a percentage? Like what's the quick hit of like where you're headed in the next period of time?
Yes, so we've put teams together that are analyzing all the data that's out there. We do not have a go back date. We don't have a date that we're even looking towards. We're really looking at what's going on now. We have separate teams that are handling, you know, the period of time we're in now, and then there's this interim period of time, and then there's post-COVID. So we're really focusing a lot on post-COVID right now. What's the new look of the company going to be?
Great. All right. Who wants to jump in next?
We've got kind of a mixed return to work. Our bank branches reopened as of August 24th. We were drive-through only up to that point. And I think we were one of the first banks in the region to do that. At one point, office return was October the 1st, but that seems to be a pipe dream now. I think the more that the COVID steering committee that we have looks at what has to be done, the more they start thinking about other things. I mean, we've even started to think about changing office and cubicle standards, or even something as dramatic as how much do we really need to come back to work? I mean, some of our areas they're working just fine from home. And in the FM world, it's weird because I'm managing a bunch of empty buildings. So yeah, the plan is constantly changing, and I guess most people are anticipating that this winter is going to bring some changes since it's regular flu season. So we'll just have to see.
Okay.
So for us, being in distribution and warehousing, we never shut down. So that leg of the business is moving as normal. But in our offices, we targeted a 9/1 return to work for those employees who are really suffering working from home. So if you had a staffer who's got a long tenure and all of a sudden productivity's dropped off, they can't do it, whatever the situation is. We figured we'd bring them back. We only got 3% of our staff wanted to come back for 9/1. We have another soft date of 11/1, trying to bring in more of the essential staff. But right now it looks like as long as there is a mask mandate while in the office, which we completely expect to put in place, nobody wants to come back. If they can work from home, they don't want to sit there and wear a mask. So
Really understandable. Maria.
Yeah, so similar here, although we don't have the large student population, we've really never shut down. You know, faculty, a lot of them weren't set up at their home to necessarily record their classes when we had the kind of last minute shutdown in March. So we've had folks in our complex all along. That said, it's significantly less occupancy than normal, and the energy on the campus and across many campuses is just not there because you have limited students. We're really trying to focus on getting folks back for the spring semester, but I think there's an awful lot that's going to go into potentially bringing them back. The one hope that we have is, I don't know if anybody knows how difficult it is to do an academic schedule, but to coordinate all the faculty times and then the students to make sure that they can fit enough classes in so that they can graduate. An average schedule takes 3 weeks to finalize with 2 months of planning behind it. And going into the fall semester, we created 24 different complete fall schedules. So I'm trying to keep my scheduling team sane right now, with the hope that we only have to do maybe 3 or 4 different models for the spring. One would be all in person, hybrid, and then a combination of different criteria for the third. And then, but I just don't know where we're going to land. I know that a lot of folks are struggling, especially with cleaning and making people feel comfortable. And I'm sure we'll bring that up moving forward. And then just, you know, making sure that folks also have the resources with wipes and sanitation equipment, PPE, because there's a real shortage on the market right now if you are going to bring back full occupancy. And I will say you have to watch what you get, because at one point we did order some hand sanitizer and I pulled it the next day because when I came in the next morning, it was dripping and it took the finish off my Trotso floor by the elevator. So you have to be super careful what you buy too.
Thanks, Maria. All right, so thank you. So let's jump into something a little bit more detailed, and I'm going to jump in. Jeff, I'm going to shoot this one to you initially. What has been your sort of secret sauce of success for your staff and productivity and morale? You've had your people back. They've never left, and to some degree, some did, some not. So what have you been doing for your staff to keep morale and keep productivity up?
Yeah, so on the essential workforce side of things, whether it be retail store employees or those in our distribution centers, we really had to focus around, the hazards of working during COVID. So we provided them with hazard pay throughout the entirety of the pandemic, especially in the height of the shutdowns, when a lot of them had to deal with childcare issues or just the lack of being able to get around, lack of easy access to groceries and all that stuff. So we provided hazard pay as well as a flexible work day. So plus or minus 2 hours on the day, whether or not they wanted to pull a 6-hour shift versus their typical 8, or come in late, come in early. And then we tried to provide as many perks as we could. So the lunchroom became a really awkward place. We removed most of the seating. We removed like 75% of the seating, went to a staggered lunch. But because of that, we tried to provide lunch once a week for staff, or have a small treat like an ice cream truck or something swing by to just do a little morale boost, do a little team building when you can't be close and you can't have those social situations. But that focus on mental health and team building went immediately to our work from home teams as well. I'm sure a lot of people have noticed you can work a lot at home, and it's kind of hard to unplug. Summer vacations got screwed up for a lot of us. So what they did as an organization was provide us with some additional time off. So just a random Friday where everyone from the top down was encouraged not to schedule a meeting on your calendar and really allow you to unplug. And I thought that was such a big win overall.
I would have liked that for sure. When you're your own boss, you forget to tell yourself to unplug. Who else wants to answer that? Anyone else want to jump in on that one?
Sure, I'll jump in. What I've done for my immediate folks, and then I can talk about what the company's done, is usually every 2 weeks I'll do a happy hour. And during that happy hour, it's game time. So we've done scavenger hunts for my team, which are actually a riot. You should try it. So you give them a list at the same time, and then you say 1, 2, 3, and they all go through their house and they're looking for a pair of red socks or a can of baked beans. And all you see is 20 people just running in different directions on their screens, and you see them running by, and it really gets them engaged. It gets them up and moving. And then whoever wins these contests, so I've done scavenger hunts, I've done trivia games, all kinds of little games to keep people motivated and together as a team. And then whoever wins that week, I send a gift card to their house. It was getting expensive, so I've staggered it now. The company's done things where we've done sports challenges for the whole company. You join a team and they've done like the Olympics type of thing. We've also done, sports team shirts, take a picture, send it in. A lot of that type of thing where people engage, they take a picture, and then we post it on our portal for our employees. I make sure I send birthday cards home for folks when it's their birthday. Occasionally just a card to say way to go or thank you. And then within the company, we have ways that you can nominate people or thank people for doing a good job. So our company's been fabulous with what they've done to keep people engaged and let them know that we do care, because these times are very strange and some people do okay with it and others struggle.
Mike, Maria, do either one of you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, I mean, my challenge is this is since it's a brand new job, it's, there were strangers in June. So in addition to keeping everybody motivated, I had to learn who they were as employees and as coworkers. I mean, the biggest thing I'm trying to do is something I guess you should do in your normal workday. I'm trying to break out of that. I'll just send an email and, why haven't you responded to my email? I'm waiting for your response from my email, and just calling. I'm trying to reach out, and we try to have our conversations that we would normally have in person over the phone. I've finally been able to meet everybody face to face. It took 2 months before I met all of my direct reports. But it's, just breaking away from this machine right now that kind of locks you into place, and not falling into that email trap is probably the biggest thing to keep motivated. So I think we've got at least one personnel issue that's a result of this employee feeling put upon because a supervisor is not talking to them. They're talking at them.
Mm. Wow. So I would say these are all great ideas. One is just being disciplined, and I think you raised a great point there, is that, making sure that you're spending the time reaching out to your staff and spending the time with them, and not just shooting out emails. And I don't know if everybody else is experiencing this, but when you work from home, weeks seem to fly by. Like, I cannot believe that, I'm actually, this morning I scheduled my first meeting into the middle of December, and it's not that far away, right? So making sure that you stay in touch. We've done happy hours, we've done group lunches, we have played some games, bingo online. From a school standpoint, one of the things that I think really meant a lot was the dean. We have a new dean that started, but meeting with the individual departments, learning about them, learning what they've done during the COVID crisis, and then learning how they want to impact the school moving forward. So I think that keeps people involved. And then we also have online yoga, and we did a cookbook for the school. So, like, gaining weight isn't enough. We've now got 150 recipes too that we have to work through. Not have to, but I feel obligated because people work really hard on it. So.
To the days when you can eventually have a potluck and everybody can bring their dish in again, right? That you can all eat together. That's great. Maria, I'm going to start with a question right back at you and keep you going here. What has been the biggest challenge or hurdle that you've had to overcome in like the past 6 months with COVID? Like, what's been the thing that's really kept you up at night?
Keeping people safe and understanding what people's expectations are, because so much of the facilities and operations world revolves around the relationships that you have with others, and especially those within your organization, and picking up little subtle cues about where the organization is going and what they might be thinking. And since we're all working remote, trying to stay ahead of somebody's thought process and senior management has been a real challenge. And a lot of what it's done is, I think it is put a spotlight on facilities and operations and how important it is to communicate, and why we need to have a seat at the table, planning now and moving forward and forevermore. So I think that the communication, like I had said earlier, was and still continues to be a challenge, because you can't let your foot off the gas.
Anyone else want to jump in on that one?
I was going to add to that, Maria, the excellent points. And I will say that corporate real estate and facilities have never been in the limelight like they are now. So all eyes are on everything we're doing and saying. And all of a sudden there are now, 25 other opinions. Everybody's the real estate expert, everybody's the facilities expert. And it's hard to decipher through all that and come together and decide what's right. And the same with keeping everyone safe. We do have some employees that are essential workers that need to go in, and we have to be careful to make sure we're taking care of them, that they know that we're there for them and that we appreciate what they do.
Yep.
For us early on, it was having the essential workforce and having them split over so many municipalities and states with ever-changing rules was really difficult to manage and track. So what we did was decide, okay, whatever the strictest municipality is, that is how all of our facilities will go. So Philadelphia ultimately was the strictest versus a Nevada or a Kentucky, where some of my other bigger facilities are. But it was an easy way to say, okay, what is good for one is good for everyone, and let's just go with the strictest rules. But on top of that came travel bans, right? And not only were they corporate imposed, which we had our own internal travel, only if it was the utmost essential. But then I had staffers traveling from Nevada to Kentucky only to return to Kentucky and find out that they had to quarantine for 2 weeks. So staying on top of that and trusting the teams on the ground to make the right decisions for you and use these tools like FaceTime and Skype to see progress on different projects from afar. Absolutely was a challenge and remains a challenge.
The biggest challenge is working in a world where there's no reliable information on how to deal with this. There's so many changes in the products and equipment that we can use, and as a facilities department, we're expected to be the experts on this. That's really stretched me. I can't possibly keep up with all the new information on what's the right cleaner, what's the right misting, what's the right equipment I should be putting in my HVAC system. It's tough keeping up with that, and then doing all of both the regular stuff and the other accelerated stuff that you're doing as part of the lockdown. So it's really hard. I've always tried to keep up in the field, but I don't really know what information I can trust sometimes. And there's consultants coming out of the woodwork that want to help you, and I don't know which one of them actually have the experience that they claim that they're having. So
Lots of new business starting.
Yeah, I find myself being very cautious about it when I'm approached by someone who's like, yeah, we can help you out with this. I'm like, how's that possible? We only have been doing this for 6 months.
Colleen, sounds like you wanted to add something in there.
I was going to say a lot of new companies are opening, a lot of startups going on right now with the experts.
Yes.
Yeah, so that mix of the science and research versus what the market is telling you need, it's definitely as a challenge to sort of sift through that. So that kind of dovetails into my next little bit more of a rapid fire question. And it does sort of think about sort of the maintenance and operations and sort of custodial world, so your operations. And so what are some of the things that you have done to get your building ready? People aside, what have you done for your buildings to either deal with them while they've been occupied to make sure that they are staying up to snuff, or changes you've made, everyone using MERF 13s, or, what are we doing? What's happening in your buildings? New cleaning protocols? What are you dealing with from an operations standpoint? Mike, you want to jump in that one? I was like, no, don't make me go first.
No, well, because I inherited a lot of this, so I don't want to accept credit or blame for it. For the branches, I mean, we're doing like any other retail site. We put up plexiglass barriers everywhere. We have all employees wearing masks, and we actually, of course, have WSFS branded face masks that we hand out to our customers. So nice marketing ability there. We're doing what we're using the term enhanced cleaning, whatever the heck that means. And we've got a response in place that if there's a report of a positive COVID event, what the protocol is for cleaning and closing down the site and so forth. Like I said, I kind of inherited this. I think it's okay, but again, I don't have a yardstick to evaluate how successful it is. And then right now in our offices, we're doing something similar. I'm going around purchasing plexiglass barriers to put on cubicles so that people can, when they eventually come back, they'll be in their little hamster cage so that they won't get affected by the Rona. But I have no clue how effective that is. I'm not confident.
What else we're doing operational wise? Is it all about cleaning? You're doing anything equipment wise? HVAC
Yeah,
systems,
for our
ventilation? Jeff.
HVAC systems, we took out the focus on efficiency. So we were willing to spend more on our utilities to maximize how much fresh air we were getting.
Yep.
And worked with a consultant there because we did want to make sure that the unit could handle it too, right? On that cold day, if I open the economizer to 100%, I'm going to burn out the heater really quickly, even if I was willing to spend all of that utility money. So trying to find the sweet spot there. It's nice to be able to do it in an empty building and kind of test, okay, too warm, too cold, as we work towards return to office. But we also noticed that we needed to improve ventilation tenfold within the distribution space, because now you have staffers who are walking 10,000 steps a day in a mask, and they became increasingly uncomfortable. We got around that with some breaks and then some additional fans. But yeah, everything else is really cleaning days. Electrostatic fogging has been a huge win for us, especially as we have a positive COVID case. So if we have someone sent home sick, ideally we find out about it that day that they have COVID-like symptoms, and we're able to get the fogging done within 24 hours. What seems to be happening now is somebody goes home sick and doesn't get tested for 5-6 days, and now they've been out of the building. So it puts us in a weird spot where we've already done a bunch of cleaning, and do we really need to bring in that extra service? So constantly just reevaluating where the importance is.
Colleen, Maria, do you want to jump in on?
Very similar.
Yep.
That's what Mike was saying.
So it's mostly cleaning, a little bit of ventilating. Go ahead, Maria.
No, I like what Jeff was saying is, using your robust HVAC systems to bring in more fresh air exchanges. We've done a deep dive into if we should increase our filter changes within the facilities, and right now there's no need for that, I don't think, given the occupancy. But one of the things that we had always pushed back on was making sure that we not only had efficient air handler systems, but also ones that were state of the art. And now I think that the school realizes why we spent some money and pushed for it, because we have the ability to program fresh air exchanges and to monitor CO2 in the classrooms and in hallways and in areas that are going to be occupied. The interesting thing that I think that has really come out of this is that we didn't have to fight as hard for me to keep the budget for maintaining the equipment that you already have on site. And I think that is going to be a real challenge, because oftentimes operations facilities folks reporting to people that are kind of like weekend warriors. They think that they understand facilities because they can hang a picture and they can vacuum their carpet. They totally get it. And when they're looking for cutting the budget, they think, okay, great, but we don't need to do this maintenance because we haven't been in the facility. And that's the wrong answer. We're gonna have a big problem if we start reentry into buildings that haven't been maintained. Drains, toilets being flushed, faucets being run. We're gonna have major issues. So maintenance from the low level to the high level needs to continue. So because we had this ability to increase fresh air exchanges, we have a lot more faculty that are using the technology that is on site to record and to broadcast live. And so that has proven the point that, maintenance is important. And so we haven't stopped maintenance. We've actually taken advantage of the building having low occupancy, all of our buildings having low occupancy, to do some projects.
Yeah, getting those little to-do projects seems to be a running thing. Like, well, there's nobody here. Let's get a couple little things done if you've got the budget for it.
I would just add to what Maria said. There's things that people aren't thinking about, like ice makers and coffee machines and things of that nature that have not been run or used for a very long period of time. We're talking either total replacement or some serious cleaning for those items that absolutely need to be done, or we will have problems.
Yeah, we had a bunch of settlement come out of our hot water heater just because it really hasn't flowed through.
Good point.
Super simple stuff that as we return to work is really important to flush out.
I'm here in the Philadelphia headquarters, and I'm looking at all the dead plants sitting around the office.
Yeah, and they're emitting their own emissions.
Yeah, well, they're
Yeah.
petrified at this point.
So, we did it at the Wharton School, we did that 2 weeks into it because we realized, okay, this isn't going to be a fast recovery. We surveyed, found out where everybody had their stash of private refrigerators underneath their desk. We took them all, we defrosted them on the loading docks, brought them back, shut off all of the ice makers, defrosted and cleaned all the refrigerators for large departments. We've been pouring enzymes down our drains. We've been running the faucets and flushing the toilets 3 times a day. I mean, we had a whole list of things that we wanted to accomplish because, again, I think there's going to be certain folks that are come back into buildings and there's going to be some damage there. And it's best to do that now. So when you're talking about a reentry plan, facilities and operations need to get in there now and start checking this stuff out before populations start coming back into the facilities.
Agreed. Totally agree. If it's not been done already, it should be.
Flush those toilets, clean out those fridges.
Yep.
Get this done. Thank you. That was awesome. So we talked about the building a little bit, but right now you've all said a lot of your people are home. So what are each of your companies, and again, really diverse companies, how are they sort of managing, what are the strategies around caring for our work at home? Like what's happening around us? Are you giving them amenities? How are they getting, a good chair? I kind of wonder about what our responsibility is as facilities professionals, saying this is our building, our people aren't here. How much of an umbrella do we take over everyone's homes and making sure they're working in a safe and productive environment, at home, that they're not sitting on the sofa all crunched up and they're not hurting themselves while working at home. Colleen, do you want to start off with that one?
Sure. We've put policies in place from the beginning. So, one day we were all in the office and the next day we all were told to stay home and work. So we've put policies in place regarding if you need a chair, there's a process to go through. If you need, very limited people are permitted to have printers at home just based on the business that we do. But if there is an exception, then they have to have a specialized shredder. They have to sign a document of confidentiality. So we've put a lot of processes and procedures in place. And then we've listed, if you need a chair, you just need your manager's approval. And to do that, you click on this link, and these are the chairs that we're permitting you to get, and then expense it off. And then we've provided the link to do an expense report, because not everyone actually has ever done an expense report. The same with any other, we've done broad categories, any type of IT equipment, if you need double monitors or anything over $1,000, anything under. So we've put all that in place. We've actually just sent out our 3rd update to that. You send out the first one and there's 500 questions and nobody gets it, even though you wrote it and it makes perfect sense to you. So then we did our 2nd one. We just sent out our 3rd one to clarify a little bit more. But we have processes in place, and it really works well. We're not, if people want furniture other than chairs, if they want a desk, that's an executive committee approval that's required. And we have found that most people are not willing to spend that chip and go to the executive committee and say, can you send me a desk at home? So we're not seeing a lot of crazy requests out there. And for office supplies and things like that, we have one person people can go to in each department. They go to one of my folks that are in charge of office supplies. They order it for them, we ship it home. So pretty much a lot of policies went in place within like the first month of realizing that this was real and not a test.
Yeah. So we've allowed employees to take home their monitors on their computers after their computing rep makes sure there's nothing that could be I guess, infiltrated from their home network. Very few people are taking home their printers. We try to encourage people not to print a lot. But clearly business administrators, financial administrators, they probably need their printers. So we've been letting some of those go. We also have resources online that we've provided, which is how to set up an ergonomically correct station at home, gives you measurements. If you're this tall, this is how far you should stay away from your screen. This is where your hands should be at from your keyboard. So it's a great resource, and it gives you ideas on how to create an ergonomically correct setup at your house. We have had a lot of pushback. People did want to bring home their chairs, but I think as an organization, we know that if we let people take home their chairs, it's just a loss. I mean, I don't know about you, but like you would have to clean every chair before it came back into the office setting, and I don't know who's going to manage that. And so what we did do, Alana and I talked about this yesterday, is that, operations and facilities teams, they have the most relationships, I think, of anybody in any organization, because you always have to find answers and solve problems. So I think that sometimes we sell ourselves short at how many people we actually deal with and how many companies and other resources that we have at our fingertips. So one of the things that operations at Wharton did is we partnered with 2 local furniture vendors. And they got us quality furniture at a discounted rate with free shipping. And it's a website. And so staff can go and purchase a desk, a stand-up desk, monitor arms, you name it, chairs at 3 different price levels, all very reasonable and high quality stuff you wouldn't find at like Walmart or get on Amazon. And it's shipped to your house for free. So you can actually set up an office at your house, but it's your property. You're not going to get reimbursed for that. But, we're just trying to find solutions for folks.
The company or the bank really accelerated its program of switching from desktops to laptops. I mean, they were in the process of doing that as older computers were ready to be decommissioned. So they went into warp speed. So everyone has a laptop now. I mean, when I started, I got everything shipped to my house. So I have a full setup, double monitor, all that jazz. As far as like keeping people motivated, I mean, the bank has always been really focused on its associates. So there's still a lot of like virtual social stuff. Like my CFO is having a happy hour online today at 5:30. And there's a lot of internal communication, just sharing good news. It's always been a tradition at WSPIS that they celebrate the associates' achievements. But it's nice on a day when you can get depressed about Corona, and you get someone relates about how an associate in a branch or in an office helped out a customer and gave really good customer service. So it is kind of uplifting that way. And as a corporation, we're just a pretty friendly group of people. So. That's helped get us through, I think, a lot of the bad times.
Awesome. Has anyone had any issues of employees coming back and sort of being unhappy about, working from home and wanting to have, utilities covered or other things? Or are they seeing sort of the, are there that kind of thing? Or are they seeing the balance, right? I'm not driving to work and I'm not parking, but, and that. So are you getting any of that kind of feedback or issues? Maria, you're shaking your head, yes?
I mean, and I don't know what the right answer is for that. So I feel more for the essential workers, and are usually facilities and operations and computing teams who have to continually come in, and housekeepers that continually have to come into work and still have to pay for parking and tolls and city wage and where others can work from home. So there has to be a balance. So I think it's going to come down to managing expectations and coming up with some real solid processes as we move through this pandemic, because I don't think we're going to come back at the first of the year either with any large populations in the building. So I think that discussion is probably going to ramp up as we move forward. So I think that while I don't have the answers, I can totally say it. We've had it in our organization, and it's just something that has to be addressed.
For us, we were expecting by this point to have an official teleworking plan in place so that we could have staff start signing up and really understand what the impact of the office was, kind of reseat some people so that we could put more space in between them, maybe not make the investment in the plexi and different dividers. But we've had staff know that this is coming and start putting in requests like, oh, I'm moving to Maine. I would like to telework from there. Well, we don't have a footprint there. So now to have a staffer there, it could trigger some employment law or some taxes and nexus that we weren't quite expecting. So it's delayed the rollout of our telework plan, which has delayed the rollout of our comfort in return to work. It's something that the HR team is working on, and I have my eye on because curious how full our building has gotten. We've been hiring throughout this whole process, so we have plenty of employees who don't have a seat yet, at least not an assigned one.
I'm not sure how that's going to happen yet.
Yeah, I haven't really heard of any issues. I mean, the only negative problem I really see, I've mentioned before, is the destruction of the barrier between home and work life. I tend now to leave my computer on at home all evening, and I get texts and emails and phone calls for things that probably could have waited. They're not really urgent anymore. I'm fine as a longtime FM getting emergency calls after hours, but getting texted while I'm eating dinner to ask a stupid question, you have to try to clench your fist and get through it. But other than that, I mean, there do seem to be a lot of benefits from working home. I guess you can tell by people are more casual in their dress, and they're more relaxed about a lot of things. So, and I think for the most part, online meetings are working pretty well. It's even kind of resulted in that push we've been trying for years to go paper free. I mean, we're talking about printers. I've hardly printed out anything at all. We do DocuSign. We use PDFs that we can modify. I'm exchanging documents electronically. I almost never produce a piece of paper anymore. And I think that's pretty common among our organization.
So for those people who are coming back into the building, those essentials and even maybe a little bit of others who are starting to sort of make their way in, what's it going to feel like to come back in? Are you doing health checks and temperature checks? What's going on at the elevators? What are some of the things you're starting to think about work as people are coming back in? How are you managing that?
Yeah,
Has anyone turned anyone, have you doing health checks?
Yes.
Yes.
Has anyone turned anybody away?
Once.
Not yet.
One person in hundreds. So we started doing health checks when Pennsylvania put it in play under the red, yellow, green reopening plan. And we started them at our distribution centers. We have a staffer who checks every single person in. Our staff is aware of the list of questions to ask. So they won't come in if they have anything that's on that list, and then they get their temperature scanned when they arrive. We're also scanning, we've eliminated any visitors. So if any sales reps or vendors want to come by, that's not allowed at this point, but we do have vending machines and coffee and things that need to get serviced. So any of those outside contractors get a, what was weekly is now monthly questionnaire. And the reason we bumped it to monthly is all of those vendors expect from us, they have our expectations. They know what we're looking for before they arrive on site. And those are questions around, what are you doing to prevent COVID within your organization? And have you had any outbreaks? What if a staffer, has any of these symptoms? But once it was no longer mandatory, we reevaluated and we said, is this really working? And the answer was yes. It makes people feel really good to come in and understand that no one here has a fever. No one is going to come in with that cough or push it, not starting to not feel so good. They know to stay home, and it's worked out really, really well. So
we're not doing physical health checks, but we use an app that's developed by Christiana Health. It goes out every morning at 5:45 before my alarm goes off. And it's a voluntary survey, but you do have to respond to it before you come into work. And if you do have any symptoms, it tells you you need to stay home and contact your manager and human capital management. I suspect that when we get back to full-blown coming back to work, there'll be some system in place. But for the current employees that are coming in, no, they just use the app, and there's no penalty if they stay at home. I think we're giving out some extra time for people. And obviously there's a flexibility to work from home. So it hasn't really been that much of a big deal.
We're not allowing essential workers in unless it's approved by a member of the executive committee. And then once it's approved at the top level, we'll get an approval in my BCP department, and they send out a document letting them know what the rules of engagement are, what they're permitted to do, what they're not permitted to do, that this is on a volunteer basis, that and they have to sign and acknowledge that document, and then that's sent back to the manager, their manager of record. But whatever the state and the city is requiring, that's what we're following at all of our locations around the U.S.
Yep. And so
Right.
Penn has a questionnaire as well that people have to answer daily. Even if you're not coming to the campus, they do ask them to track it, their symptoms, if they've been, exposed to anybody with symptoms. But you do need to have that pass to get into any building and a valid Penn ID. We do in our primary building check temperatures, but that's not something that the university is really pushing. But they're ramping up testing, and I think that when we do bring a larger population back, we're going to do something similar to what Harvard and MIT is doing, which is every faculty member, PhD student, staff member, and vendor that is on the campus on a routine basis must be checked, be tested 3 times a week. And I think we're going to be ramping up for that. So Harvard's had some issues with it, but it's going, and MIT just started it last week. So I think that's where we're going to.
Wow.
All fascinating as we're sort of learning along we go. So we're already getting close to our time out here. So I have one final question. 3 years from now, right? We're looking back on the, hey, do you remember when kind of thing, the lessons learned. What are you taking away from what you might do differently in your practices and facilities, looking back on this? I know it's like pulling back. It's hard to believe we're going to be out of it, but we will be out of this at one point. I believe that anyway. Maybe you don't. If you don't, you can say that too. But what do you look back on? And what are the lessons learned a couple of years from now?
Well, I know from contingency planning in the past, I used to laugh that there was a section on the pandemic. So 3 years from now, I'm going to definitely check the part on insects, volcano eruptions, and earthquakes, because I don't want to get caught out again. No, I mean, in general, it is emergency preparedness. We need to look at our plans and practice them more, and do more tests on them to make sure that they're ready. This really has, I'll speak for all of us, I think kind of stretched us to the breaking point, just trying to provide the same kind of quality service we normally do in this environment. And I think what that means is those plans that we developed and then put on the shelf and never looked at again are coming to bite us in the butt.
So I would say, since I have owned business continuity for many years, I would say we were fortunate that I was so passionate about it that they didn't sit on the shelf and we didn't have to dust them off. And I know it's odd to find corporate real estate facilities and business continuity all together, but because of that, we were really fortunate. And when we filled out those questionnaires, we knew we tested and things of that nature. 3 years from now, I will absolutely be retired. So I will look back on this and say, that's great. I'm leaving it in good hands. We've tested the plan. It worked for the pandemic, and great. I'm on the beach in Key West, and hey, I hope you guys never experience anything like this again.
I love that. That's great.
It's certainly a great way to go out, knowing that you were part of all this and to help people through it. And that in 40 years of doing facilities management, corporate real estate, business continuity, that we finally all got ours. They finally realized how important we are to the organizations.
Yep.
Shame it took that long, and shame it took a pandemic, but hurrah.
But I think what you're going to look back on, and hopefully this helps people move forward, is it's those relationships that sustain us. It's the relationships with the people within your organization, your teams, and it's your vendor contacts, and it's, you know, other people in the industry. It's the relationships that keep us going. We're all interconnected. And so hopefully this is, you know, motivated people to start building their network, not to be complacent, and to always be nimble, and to hopefully change their approach to work so that they can bend and not break. Some of us are very rigid in that process, and those are the people that are struggling the most right now. So, yep, those two things. That's what I would say.
Jeff, you want to wind up and finish it off for us?
Yeah, sure. I'll echo exactly, you know, that. It's I won't have relationships with ordering cleaning supplies through Amazon anymore. That's for sure. You know, I hope to have actual vendors in place. I also hope to be retired in 3 years. Doubt it, but I'm gonna try. And yeah, I think it's just gonna be super interesting to see. I'll probably have 15 satellite offices with 5 or 6 people in them, because we can now pull talent through across the country to support our organization, because we've shown that remotely you can do that. And I think that's going to be an exciting opportunity.
Yeah, so the way we work, and I mean, we are really winding down our time here, but I have 10 more questions we certainly could ask, and just the idea of how we might work differently. And, you know, someone said, well, will there still be FM jobs? And I'm like, we're all going to be employed. Don't worry. There's plenty of buildings to go around. It might look different. We might have different responsibilities, but FM is here to stay. And Colleen, I really do hope and believe that we're finally getting that, you know, that seat at the table and being seen as more of a strategic partner in our organizations.
Alana, I would say they need us more now and in the future than we were ever needed before.
I agree.
So if anybody's worried about will there be job roles for us or things like that, they're going to change. You're going to see that facilities managers are now more involved in business continuity planning. I see it in my own organization where my 2 teams together work together on things. There's just going to be, it's going to be bigger and better. And I'm just thrilled that on my exit from my career, you are all getting the due you deserve.
May this be our shining moment. I don't really want to know what the next thing would be. I mean, we've been through a lot, you know. I would have thought maybe security or sustainability or something else would have been our, you know, a point. I'm hoping that we don't have anything worse, you know, in all of our careers along the way. I really want to thank Mike and Jeff, Maria and Colleen, and for just amazing thoughts and being here and being present. This was really terrific. So thank you so much for being here. Kayla, thanks on behalf of the Philadelphia chapter of IFMA for hosting and for everyone attending. I didn't really see any questions in the chat, but we have another minute or 2 if anybody has anything they'd like to jump in and say here.
I think everybody is just saying how great today's presentation was, and you know, time well spent, which I totally agree with. And again, on behalf of IFMA, thank you, Mike, Jeff, Maria, Colleen, and Alana for being a part of this. And if you or anyone you know would like to be part of a similar type webinar in the future, you know, let's do it again.
Yeah.
Let's share our stories, because that's how we learn and grow. Make our network strong, right? Those relationships everyone's talking about.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
If you're not a member of IFMA Philly, time to join. You get to join all of us.
IFMAphilly.org or email Colleen or myself, and we'll get you on. We have committees. You know, there's a ton of work to be done. So
the happy hours will be great once we're allowed to do them again.
Yeah.
There were some online happy hours for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, then everyone's eyes started going bad. You know, it's tough just looking at the screen.
We weren't sure it was the booze or their eyes.
Yeah, but we
too
will
much.
have our hopefully our golf outing on 10/8.
Yes.
Will be an in-person situation. So
Oh, please join us. It will be so much fun. We're looking for
Yeah.
some more golfers.
yes.
Alana, we're expecting you to sign up.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I always